Today on the Brand Aid podcast.
The question is, what's my incentive, right? How do we motivate? The motivation and inspiration have to precede the information.
Welcome to Brand Aid, where we answer the question, what does it take to launch your own brand revolution, create evolution, and who are the people that help you foster connection, community, contribution, and currency for a brand built to last. You will also meet brands changing the world and the lives of those they serve. Here's your host, Cheryl Hodgson.
With us today is college admissions specialist Pamela Donnelly. Pamela is the founder and CEO of Valley Prep Tutoring Services and Gate College Systems. Pamela is a #1 bestselling author and keynote speaker, and she rose quickly through the ranks from summa cum laude graduate at Columbia University in New York City with her degree in secondary education to become one of America's foremost strategists in college admissions. With 20 years of experience, she leads a highly qualified and trained team of educators offering in-home counseling and tutoring services for GPA support, test prep, essays coaching, and more. Her first book, SWAT Team Tactics for Getting Your Teen into College, went #1 on the Amazon bestseller list into education. Following the release of her second book, 4 Keys to College Admissions Success, Donnelly has become a nationally recognized media expert with both tips for parents and teens, as well as political analysis of the shifting landscape of what it takes to succeed in America's college. She has been featured and interviewed by many of the most prestigious publications in America, including Time Magazine, the New York Times, the ABC, NBC, CNN, and more. Committed to championing underserved populations, Pamela is presently completing her PhD at Pepperdine University and writing her dissertation on college access in the digital age. Hi, everyone. I'm Cheryl Hodgson. Welcome to the Brand Aid podcast. I have a very special guest with me today, Pamela Donnelly. And Pamela, I want to welcome you to the show, and I can't wait to learn more about your services and your brand and how you have built such a following and a great business that contributes to helping parents and students in the college admissions process. Welcome, Pam.
Thank you. So nice to be here. Hi, everybody.
So, Pamela, you and I were, you've had such a career because I think you didn't start out as an educator. You started out in acting. Is that correct? You're an actor?
Sure. Yeah. I started out actually as a model, then an actor. I always say that the communication skills of having been on television, I was on All My Children and One Life to Live, The Edge of Night. Those types of skills do come in handy as a teacher. They come in handy when you're looking to communicate important information that parents need. So in my 20s, I did that. I actually didn't get into college myself because I'm first generation. My parents hadn't gone to college. I didn't go to college and get my undergrad till I was 30 years old. Ended up getting into Columbia University in the city of New York, graduated summa cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa in about 2.5 years, and was off to the races, in love with academia, called into being a teacher. And then
you're not an overachiever, are you?
I don't know about over. I just think I like to achieve.
Well, I resemble that myself. So I just am teasing you, because
yes.
But that's quite an accomplishment in 2.5 years. So.
Well, I think I was overdue. I think for a lot of students in this country, and a lot of my pro bono work and volunteerism has to do with this. When you think about 15.8 million students in America, and so many of them are from low socioeconomic status backgrounds like I was, the parents who don't know how to help their kids really don't have a shot. Now, most of my clients are high net worth families in the Los Angeles area. I'm also working Zoom and Skype across the country as a college admissions specialist. But, those are usually the top 10% earners in order to be able to work with a company like mine or with services like mine as an individual IEC. So I'm an independent educational consultant. Those are two different worlds, the world I came from in a little town in Virginia and, live like helping the movie stars kids in LA, but that's kind of what I do now.
Yeah. So tell me about that journey. How did I mean, you've been at this many years, right? I mean, as far as my understanding, you've been coaching and helping students with college admissions for well over 20 years now.
Yeah.
So how did that company come about and how did it evolve to where it is today, which is very, very successful, I might add.
Thank you. You know what? It came out really organically. I had a calling into teaching right around the age of 30 when I went to Columbia, had to decide what I was going to major in. I really felt drawn to secondary education. And I thought, gosh, that's quite a humble move from being a TV star to like teaching English in a public school. But I did that actually because I felt really a sense of like, this is the right path for me. I just was really following that inner knowing. I taught at the LaGuardia High School for the Performing Arts, which is the FAME school. I, got to have a lot of experiences in public and then private. And then eventually getting to a point where I experienced what unfortunately so many teachers experience in our schools today, which was a sense of burnout. Really underpaid, overworked, underappreciated, not allowed a lot of creativity in my lesson plans. I had learned a lot about how to design curriculum in my undergrad as well as my master's program. So I was really ready to start building my curriculum that we'll talk about in a little bit. So I built a product and a company called GATE, which is a college admissions based curriculum that is available online for families.
Oh, that's great. And
Yeah,
so GATE is a process, right? It's 4 steps. Is that correct?
It's step by step. GATE is grades, applications, testing, and essays. So it's for 9th through 12th graders.
So, and you said that's an online course, right?
It is. Folks can look at openthegate.us to learn about that.
Great. Well, hopefully we'll have a chance to talk a little bit more about that. But so tell me, how did you first get into forming the company, and was it an overnight success?
No, no, there's no such thing. That's like, Santa Claus and the Tooth Fairy. It's a work in process still. GATE, I will say that my primary bread and butter is through Valley Prep Tutoring Services, which is my brick and mortar tutoring agency. But a lot of what we're doing now, especially this week as we've had the pandemic announcement and things like that, already I'd say 2/3 of our services have been online. But this week we have moved to entirely online to protect our tutors and to protect our students. So, using Zoom and Skype services, one-on-one support through Valley Prep for all subject areas through AP level, as well as college consulting with me, essays, coaching. Basically we run the gamut, working mostly with 9th through 12th grade students, a few middle schoolers as well.
Well, and I think there's two interesting things here, because number one, it's interesting that because you and I had a discussion when we first met at an event of our mutual mentor, Joel Bauer. And, we were talking about the fact that much of your business and your brand has been built with live events.
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. And so here we are at this inflection point where we're all facing, we all aren't going to be gathering with each other hopefully for a short duration of time here. But I mean, the fact that you have moved your brand into a position where you can function online and can contribute to bring services, that's huge in the moment like this.
I'm so grateful, because I got to tell you, one of my best friends is an event planner in New York City. People are canceling left and right. Like there are a lot of industries that are in absolute peril right now. And my heart really goes out to so many people who they're not sure how they're going to make a living. I mean, quarantine is a luxury if you can afford it, if you think of it that way. So, everything that I'm doing is online, able to be online. I didn't do it because I knew some kind of health thing was coming, but obviously technology is, whether we like it or not, and I think that we can all agree that there are pluses and minuses to the way that technology can bring us together, but also isolate and skew
Absolutely.
Use the lens through which we view the world, social media, the ways that impacts how we see or how we perceive our place in larger society, has always been a concern to me. But yeah, you're darn right. I'm glad I can at least make a living while this is going on. Because
and I bring that up, because number one, you're further along in the process than some people who are wanting to go online and build a business. I've been in the process of taking an awful lot of trainings in the internet marketing world with launching my podcast and my own courses. And there's this part of people who most of them are highly educated. They're people who have a lot to share, a lot to offer, and they might want to start a business like this. But there's that personal development part, or that mindset part, that can sort of block us from moving forward, I think, which is, well, number one, can I deal with the technology? And number two, how do I really show up, and can I be seen and heard? What's my voice? So did you ever go through any of that in your process of building your business?
Two separate answers. One is that, like on the Valley Prep side, with tools today, like, Zoom, Skype, Adobe Connect, FaceTime, Google Hangouts, anyone can offer services just like you and I are talking right now on a camera screen. Listen, we all, we sleep next to our laptops with our phone on the side. Listen, this is where we've landed.
Oh, I've never done that.
So in that way, anything that you're able to do face to face, you can do there. Even medicine, I've heard, is going remote with ways of people getting their temperature taken and their blood pressure on a machine that then reads it and it sends it to the doctor. They're doing virtual diagnosing and things. So it's a really interesting, like you said, inflection point in the use of technology. Now, on the Gate side, that is an actual product. It is a platform. It is, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of coding of a company that I hired to build that product. And, I did have to really put some people in place that could oversee that at a level beyond what I was, because I don't code. So I'm the content expert, but JavaScript versus Python, you lost me, right? So
I'm right up there with you, lost with you.
Yeah. So, but as long as we can be the content experts, we're fine, right?
Oh yeah, and I, so I want to go back to how you built this, because you've been, you're standby on television. You've been interviewed dozens and dozens of times on national media. Larry King has said fabulous things about you. I mean, but when I want to address that from the perspective of, how did that evolve for you? Is it the need in the marketplace, or something, your messaging, or how you connect with the parents and the students? I'm just curious what your perspective is on, your secret sauce.
What Joel Bauer says, and of course, Joel is a marketing mentor that has helped me, I can't even really quantify how much he's helped me over the years, but he said to me early on, Pamela, you are the brand. And I remember kind of going, huh? Like a little puppy dog, huh? Like what? So when we talk about secret sauce, the way I think of this, people have to really trust you. And, there's a lot of, snake oil salesman type people out there, especially in the internet. And a lot of internet marketing and digital marketing is the domain of men. In an industry like mine, I am a mother of 3. I'm an Ivy League graduate. I'm currently working on my PhD in global leadership at Pepperdine University. There is enough social proof and testimonial proof and evidence online. If anybody wants to look at PamelaDonnelly.com or look on LinkedIn and look at the research I'm doing and understand how I'm respectfully approaching trying to help solve a really important problem for my clients, they can feel that they know me because I'm pretty transparent. I allow some vulnerability. Hopefully they like me, and I've demonstrated that I'm a trustworthy source. So I think that's what it comes down to.
Well, I think you hit on something very important, because whether you are offering a service such as yours for college prep, or you are a doctor, or you're a lawyer, or you are any other type of service professional in particular, there's that whole issue of how do I differentiate myself and how do I stand out? And I think we've all heard that saying, it comes down to know, like, and trust someone, right?
Right.
And
right.
So I really appreciate your sharing that, because my favorite expression, which I don't know if you remember this or ever saw it, but that, of course, the brand called you. That was, it was
Oh.
it was an article written back in I think in the 70s or
Oh,
a
wow.
long time ago. And it's actually an often quoted article because it was kind of revolutionary when he was talking about, you know, I think it was in Fast Company magazine. And he was talking about, you know, each person, that's the future, is that the individual will become the brand, right?
Mm.
And now we have that on social media with, you know, influencers on Instagram and all of those things that
Well, if I
I'm
may,
not an expert in.
well, I think that the challenge, though, is scalability, because you can be an expert, you can be known, liked, and trusted, but how do you scale your expertise? How do you build a company that can function without you? How do you make sure, for example, when I established Gate, you know, I took investment. We created that as a C Corp. I took in, you know, well over $1 million in seed money and angel funding. I had to figure out how to do that. Obviously, people don't just write you checks for no reason.
Not at all.
Now it's executive summaries and business plans and all the legals and all of the SEC compliance, and it is just I feel like I should have an MBA by now just for what I've gone through in establishing that. But the reason that I created Gate was because, you know, time for money is a losing proposition, and you and I both know, as women
Yes.
who paid, you know, good money per hour for our time, that you still max out at a certain point. And if you're looking to have a legacy and leave an impact, you have to find a way to, you know, as they say, have the cash register making money when you sleep. There has to be a way for what you do to be online in a way that it can still be generating revenue. And so the idea behind Gate was a step-by-step process of everything. Like, if you could afford me to come into your home for 130 videos worth of content with my staff, who also are in these videos, and also have our trainings and et cetera, this is what you would get, but you would spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to have all of
Right.
it. And now we've put it into, you know, one easy to access platform for less than $500. So
Wow. And there's 130 videos?
Yeah, 130 videos and, over 60 trainings, test prep, SAT, ACT, everything they need to know about the applications process, financial aid, how to write a great essay, how to have a strong GPA. All of that GATE sequencing is part of what you see there at openthegate.us.
Yeah. So what do you see as the biggest challenge for the students and the parents in implementing what you train and teach?
It really depends on the family. I think a lot of times the biggest challenges are emotional in nature, because the academic and the strategy is pretty straightforward. And if the student is bright enough to be heading to college, they can usually navigate that pretty well. What's hard is the challenges of parents who don't want to individuate from the child. They don't want, there's like the kind of helicopter parenting.
Yes.
And, parents who say, well, I was thinking of calling Harvard to see, I'm like, no, you don't want to call Harvard. And by the way, the kid probably shouldn't be calling them either, unless there's like an ongoing conversation that they've initiated. But, well-intentioned parents, loving parents, I get it, because I'm very protective of my kids too. But as our sons and daughters get to 16, 17, and 18, we need to allow them to take ownership of this process. I'd say the most consistent problem I see, because I'm working with so many wealthier families, is the parents, I think what happens is they're really relieved to bring me in, though, because I kind of am I triangulate the stress of that, so it's not contention between the dad and the son. Oh, did you do your test prep or whatever? Like, right. I am now sort of the voice of reason that the teenager is able to listen to. And, I get along great with my clients, and I think they appreciate that, they can get done what they need to get done without it being a fight in the family.
Yeah. I mean, and I understand the pressure on children, in terms of at such a young age now, to be, the competition is so ferocious, particularly for Ivy League schools or even other colleges, there's a psychological pressure, and then yet at the same time, I'm not a parent, but it just seems like a lot of times the kids are now they're almost over sheltered in some ways, in terms of, I don't know. It's an interesting dynamic for children to try and teens to navigate and emerge into the world in the best of circumstances. Going from being a teenager at home to going into college is a huge transition in life.
It really is. And you're right that we've had a 108% increase in the number of students applying to colleges over the last 15 years with the Common Application and digital platforms making it so easy. Many more students applying. It's harder and harder to get in with a GPA or a test score that might have gotten you in even 5 or 10 years ago. So support like mine and like Valley Preps and like Gates are really differentiating in terms of, the likelihood of you getting in, especially if you're aiming for a selective school. Maybe, as long as you've got a strong GPA, you probably can get into a reasonable state school. But if you're looking to get into sort of, a name brand school in particular, not just Ivy League, but, the Dukes, the Notre Dames, the whatever, people talk about, Stanford, as if you can just, oh yeah, I'm thinking, really? 4% admission rate? Tell me.
Yeah, you and a few thousand other people.
Tell me about your uncle who built the library, please, because otherwise, we're going to have an interesting conversation. So yeah, it's, and I think Varsity Blues scandal was really an interesting sort of line in the sand where we as a culture looked and went, wow, it really has gotten very corrupt when you can see that even major universities like USC and Yale had some bad apples in there, even though those schools are very reputable, very desirable end results for a student looking to apply. But that money talks, and that the socioeconomic disparities we see, they're very much part of, the dissertation I'm working on right now is called College Access in the Digital Age. I'm really curious to see how technology can help to level the playing field. So that's a real area of interest for me.
Pamela, that could be your legacy right there, because there couldn't be a more, how should I put it, opportune moment and inflection in time to be writing a dissertation on that topic.
Yeah, I feel called to it for sure. Thank you.
Yeah. And could you share a little bit more about how the college admissions scandal, as it's been dubbed, how that has impacted your business in any way?
I get asked that question as one of the main ways it's impacted me, and my answer is prison when I help their kids get into college. So we got that going for us. I think that it's created some cynicism around the industry. And I have to tell you, I'm connected in Facebook groups and at conferences with 10,000 or so other independent educational consultants like myself who have spent decades committing ourselves to ethically helping students get into the right fit colleges. Many of us work with low income families for free, and then we work with families who can afford it to be able to keep their own bills paid. So it's upsetting that a Rick Singer comes in and casts sort of a negative light on an industry that is actually very much needed. Right now, we've got a national average of, like, if you think about the public schools in America, you say, oh, well, the guidance counselor is going to help the kid. Well, the National Association of College Admissions Counselors says 250 to 1 should be the maximum ratio. And here in the US, we are at 482 students to 1 counselor in a public school. And in LAUSD, it's 1,000 to 1. Chicago is 700 to 1. So when you start thinking about the numbers, if without an independent person or a technology to help you, good luck. Like, if you don't know the ins and outs of this, and believe me, it's taken me, 23 years to know what I know. And I save the learning curve as I work with families.
Yeah. Well, and also, when you share that with me, it makes me realize, I had no clue going back in my youth in terms of getting into college. It was like whoever would take me just for financial reasons, because I was, my family didn't have means at that point, my life. And
so you ended up in law school. My gosh.
That was a whole journey, believe me. But it's just amazing to me that I look back and I go, how did I ever get in? Now, I had good grades, but it was, I had no idea. And we did. And I mean, I felt like at least where I grew up, I got a great public school education, but I'm not sure that we have maintained that. My parents and my grandparents were school teachers. So I come from a long line of educators.
Yeah, that's lucky.
And grew up in that. And so the only thing I got was the desire to learn. My parents sort of instilled that in me, reading books and, the old fashioned things.
Yeah.
In the pre-digital era.
Mommy, what's a book? Oh, yeah, things are changing so quickly. They really are.
Yeah. So what do you see? Share a little bit more about what happens in your live events. I'm curious about how the component of being live versus the digital learning. Is there a difference in what happens in those scenarios?
Yeah, so my live events are an opportunity for parents to meet me for the first time. I have a signature event called College Quest, and I have done this for as many as 300 parents in a large auditorium at Culver City High School, for maybe 150 parents at Burbank High School, but then I've also done it for 20 parents in living rooms across Malibu and Bel Air and, some very high-end communities where I'll have a client who loves my services, wants me to meet the friends, puts out cheese and wine and crackers and whatever, and we just have a nice evening. And I just bring, a short little PowerPoint presentation. I don't believe in death by PowerPoint, but I like to just be able to show some data and some statistics and some images to kind of guide a conversation. And the Q&A usually goes on, for as long as eventually I have to stop the Q&A because everybody's got, what about this? What about that? And my student wants to do this class. Would it be better to do that class? There's just a million little pieces of strategy that have to be taken into consideration. And, typically somewhere between, depending on the event, a smaller event, I will usually close about 40 to 60% of the room for one of my packages of services. Larger events, it's a little harder. I might, end up in the 20%, 25% of parents engaging in some way, whether they are able to afford the services or not. And then, as Joel likes to say, the heart's in the right place, but sometimes the Visa card does not process.
Well, we've all been there.
It's heartbreaking because you want to help everybody, but you also have an obligation to your own family and your own sanity. And, this is why, for me, building Gate and having ways that I can help students that are not a time for money exchange, it makes me very happy because I am able to offer that upon request to nonprofits, to students. We actually piloted Gate with over 1,000 students in 7 states in 50 high schools. And many of these were students from lower SES kind of families. And so, it's a privilege to be able to help.
Whether you are CEO of your own evolving brand, or you are serving as guide and mentor to other emerging brand owners, it's important to include legal protection for valuable brand assets. Brand names and logos, as well as other intellectual property, are often the most valuable business assets a company will ever own. Registered trademarks for product names, logos, and slogans are a potent weapon against domain hijackers, cyber squatters, as well as other later entrants into the market. In my international best-selling book, Registered Trademark, The Business Owner's Guide to Brand Protection, I reveal my simple 3-step process to help select, secure, and sustain protection for your own brand dream team. And I'll share how to bulletproof your business both online and off. As my special gift to our listeners, you can receive a free copy of my book. Simply go to brandaid.com/free gift to receive your copy today, and you'll pay only for shipping and handling. It's so frustrating for me, just as someone who felt like I got a decent education, to see the quality of what's offered in public schools, and it's a challenge.
There are technologies in public schools. There's a product many of your listeners may be familiar with called Naviance that's in a lot of public schools right now. It is a kind of a CRM tool. So it's something that the college counselors or guidance counselors can use to keep track of, here I've got 500 students or 400 students. Did they turn in their teacher recommendations? Have the transcripts gone into the schools, et cetera, et cetera? So it's kind of like an organizational tool, has a little bit of content for the students, but it is nothing like the robust student-focused experience that we created GATE to be. Khan Academy has some free SAT prep online. There are some free resources that people kind of piece together, but what we've done is a holistic solution. So 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, GATE, like it literally is a wraparound thing. So that was our vision, was just to be able to have a one-stop shop where a student would have everything they need, whether their parents have money or not.
Well, and is there, there's a lot of discussion now in the online world, and I'm just curious that, where it says that like people, including me, who have bought online courses, the average completion rate is under 15% of people who complete online courses.
Yeah.
So, I mean, do you run into that challenge? And then there's this discussion about gamifying things, and that is an approach to helping people stay more engaged, I guess. How do you keep the students engaged, I guess is what I'm asking.
It's a really important question, because GATE was actually developed to be a blended learning solution. And blended learning means that there is a teacher, counselor, parent, or other facilitator working with the student as they go through the program. It is not send a student into a closet with a laptop, because you're right, there is, and even with adults, by the way, the MOOCs, the massive online courses that you see, even major universities, you're right, it's usually well below 20% completion, because the question is, what's my incentive, right? How do we motivate? The motivation and inspiration have to precede the information, right? So how do we do that? A lot of that is getting the buy-in, and the gamification you mentioned is a big mode of buy-in. And one of my hopes for GATE, one of my visions for GATE, and I am talking to one of our current investors about possibly expanding some of what's there to add more gamification, because especially as a consumer product, the gamification is going to be, I think, critical to where the industry is going to go. So, having text and activities and videos without having like badging and like fun little, like, oh, I earned 15 gold stars. Like, remember when you were a kid and you used to get like the little stickers on your,
yes,
who like getting the little star sticker? Yeah, come on, it's true. You like the star sticker. That hasn't, what is that about? It's a piece of sticky, but we care because it's a validation. And so it's human nature. And I think the gamification is going to be the way that learning technologies will continue to evolve.
Yeah. And I mean, it's incredible that we have such opportunities now for sharing information and learning all over the world. But then I was staggered when I realized, oh, I'm a statistic because I bought online courses that I haven't completed as well, But I think it is, you get started, but then it's what's going to keep me engaged. And I think that's really the key.
Yeah. Well, what's in it for me, right? I always say to my clients, let's begin with the end in mind. And, even college itself is not, it's not a destination. It's a vehicle. It's a means to an end. Like the end that we should be having in mind is a future that's ripe with purpose, that our students discover for themselves by having gone to the right college and discovered the right information in that process. So if you back pace that to 9th, 10th, or 11th grade, the question is, how do we incentivize and motivate what it's going to take to go that distance? And a lot of times it's not even just the 4-year, it's master's degree and doctoral level work that these families are wanting these kids to do. You got to think about that entire trajectory. So the strategy of that is a big part of my work.
Oh, which is super important, because that issue, one of the big challenges now with going to college is you can come out with and apparently from everything we hear statistically, the college debt load is so great when students graduate, and many still don't really have a way to get meaningful employment. I mean, it doesn't necessarily lead to some in game that's going to lead them a better life as far as financially.
That's unfortunate. We are at a point of $1.6 trillion in federal student debt. There are high levels of people that are defaulting on their loans. The FSA office in DC has had me come in multiple times to do consulting for them, the Federal Student Aid Office. And I would love to see GATE placed in some of the technologies they're getting ready to roll out in the next couple of years. Because the FAFSA mobile app and other ways that they're looking to, sort of get into the new century, they're a little bit behind the ball, but they're trying to get caught up now so that every student through the federal government has access to the information they need, but they're just not there yet. They don't have the right content providers yet. So I am in a conversation with them. I would love to see this be a benefit in that way.
Well, it sounds like you might be a great content provider for them.
I've got some content, Cheryl. If you want content, I'm your lady.
I want to back up for a second because, we'd mentioned our mutual friend and mentor, Joel Bauer, but and I think you shared a little bit about this with me, but what was the inflection point in terms of you going from that, your business at least, not you individually, but going from that, hourly, trading time for money, which, all professionals in a service business face that issue at some point. And what was the turning point for you in terms of your business being able to scale? Was it the technology? Was it marketing? Messaging?
I'm still in that journey, so I don't want to misrepresent. Hey, I've already landed on the other side of nirvana here, because I haven't. But I am in the process, let's say, of getting to the place where the technology that we've developed can be a company that can be exited. Because when you think about, we talked about how do you get to a place where you build something that can function without you, right?
Yes.
There's this thing called key man insurance. I had investors in New York City asking me, well, if anything happened to you, Pamela, is GATE even worth anything? Because
right, exactly,
GATE is you in digital form, and we would need you to drive implementation for wherever, whether the federal government or one of the corporations that I'm talking to. There was some interest in acquisition of this content and or this company. And that to me is financially like a goal, right? For my investors as well as for myself. But the inflection point from one to the other was, sitting in a marketing event with Joel and realizing that what I have it's almost like hiding your light in a bushel. I have this bright light of content, but it's only the people who can get inside my bushel were able to get that. And it was like, I wanted to take off the bushel, get on the top of a hill and shine the light. Like, hey, everybody, here's all this stuff, and thank God for the internet, right? It's an opportunity, but creating courses and images and videos. I mean, thank God for my background, by the way, as an actor. I've done scripting and producing and directing and performing in. I've done those first ones in all of them, and then I appear in a handful of them. I didn't want it all to be my face. We wanted diverse faces and men, women, all different cool people from different backgrounds. It's no joke. You will spend years and years of your life building your course online if you decide to go there. And you may need to take in money unless you are able to bootstrap it yourself to the degree of multiple six figures. So you got to decide, you got to decide if you're going to pony up to the table and bet on yourself or not. It's almost
exactly.
It's like Vegas.
Yeah. And I think you mentioned something earlier, which I think we all have to remember. It really is, you never quite arrive. You are always in process.
Oh,
and
wow.
I think that's one of the things that particularly new entrepreneurs and younger entrepreneurs and people want to build something. It's like, if at first you don't succeed, don't quit. You know what I mean? You realize it, it may take a while to find your niche, to find your message, to find your tribe.
That is for sure. And, they say it ain't over till the fat lady sings. So, you got to really, the tenacity gene is one that if you don't have that as an entrepreneur, you probably should just stay home and go get a job,
Yeah. Well, one thing, it's a message for me, as you know, I'm an attorney, and, I spend a lot of time talking to people about the importance of not just branding, but intellectual property and building some kind of assets. I mean, clearly you have a course, so that's something you would be protected, but has, in terms of looking at exiting your business and also bringing in investors, is there any experience you had with your investors, for example, where, you know, having intellectual property protection was something that came up as an important part of your business?
Yes, we applied for a patent for a section of what we had created. We did receive a provisional patent on that. There's like a multi-year process, as I'm sure you're aware, in patenting a process online. There are a lot of things that you want to think are patentable that are not.
Exactly.
So I did hire a gentleman that I had met who is a IP attorney,
Mhm.
who helped us with that. And I don't feel that. I mean, obviously there are trademarks and copyrights implicit in the branding and the logo and the
Exactly.
whatever, because we're the first to market with that. But I think that in these days, there are a lot of, like, for example, I know one example for sure, and I'm not going to name names, but I took a meeting at a conference with a major player in the college admissions industry and shared with them Gate and was proposing a partnership of some sort. They declined, and 8, 9 months later brought something to market that was unbelievably similar. And I was like, wow, you
Very, very, yes.
awful. I hope you sleep well at night. So
And you have a very good attitude about it, Pamela. You know?
I mean, I try to approach everything through the lens of I'm here on this planet to do whatever good I can till we all kick out, and while we're here, I want to be somebody who contributes. I don't want to be somebody, if I have to steal from somebody to have what I think I want for some kind of advantage, then that's a karmic debt that I'm not willing to pay. And they
Yeah.
were, so they can have that debt if they want to pay that. And I'll
Yeah.
be over here sleeping well and trying to be a nice person,
Yeah, no, I hear you. But yeah, I understand the pain of that. So, I mean, I only bring that up because I see people who struggle with whether or not they should even protect their name,
Mm.
and then do they need a brand, and then there's so much out there about, well, do I just need a generic domain name? Isn't that all I need? So it's a conscious choice is my attitude about it. So I
Yeah.
just, but especially if you're building something to exit at some point, or you want to have an asset that's worth more, I think that at least exploring that IP component can be very important. So
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And, you know, in my case, there's almost like a triumvirate brand. So I actually have 3 logos. I have the Pamela Donnelly logo, and then I have the Valley Prep Tutoring logo, and then the Gate logo. And very often I will position those like in an isosceles triangle connected with lines. Like I need people to think of, because that is the differentiator, is that there are other consultants, but they don't have the tutoring arm ready to help you with that piece and the digital technology. There are technologies, but they don't have me, and they don't have that. There are tutoring agencies, but they don't have these two, right? So like there's kind of a beautiful interstitial solution there. And, we really do have it covered soup to nuts for those who engage.
Well, and I think you've just hit on something very important, because there's the product or service brand, but then there's your personal brand of you as Pamela Donnelly and how
Yeah.
you fit into that. And that's an interesting distinction you just made. And also how you've promoted both as being related. They're
Yeah.
not one and the same, but they're intimately connected.
Why don't I do a quick screen share? May I? I'll show you how
Yes,
that.
I'd love that. I'd love it. That'd be awesome.
So here is PamelaDonnelly.com. You're able to see that?
Yes.
And so this is the Pamela Donnelly logo. Obviously my signature and a little, mortarboard cap, tossing it in the air. These are some of the media. So the badging, you always want to be able to refer to sort of that social proof of, being validated by some of the big media. This is a quick 60-second media reel where you can see me in action if somebody wants to go there and look at that. I have added PhD candidate to my branding because I'm about 1.5 years out from getting my doctorate. And I think that is a differentiator that helps people to see me in a specific way. There's the Larry quote. So I say founder of Valley Prep and GATE, also author and speaker and admissions specialist. But if we come up here, there's Valley Prep and there's GATE. If I click, and I'll just scroll down quickly to show you, there's a Time Magazine interview. There's some, quotes. There's one of my books. So there's here's Valley Prep, here's GATE, right? Mm-hmm. So you can see these are separate, and people, when they click there, it takes them to those sites. So now, we're going directly to information about GATE itself. So it's an interesting opportunity when I think about, having your own name as a website. You can put your other content there and people can take it from there. So I'm just kind of highlighting how the three brands are interconnected.
I think it's fabulous because it's great to actually have some visual in a podcast interview to actually see some of the way you actually put things together. I'm very big on training people to actually, how do you put it together? Because it's from a visual perspective and from a marketing perspective, because it's surprising when people first start out, they're kind of missing that instruction piece. So that's great.
The most important instruction I can give, and I'm scrolling right now, so just take a look here. I mean, these are testimonials, pictures. I have video content of each of these students and their parents holding up. We call this the Valley Prep spread. You can see the, look at all the schools. We're averaging 9 acceptance letters for every 11 applications our students submit. So you can kind of see, here's what I did. Thanks for what you did. Here's the scholarship I got. Here's what I'm going to Johns Hopkins. I'm going to University of San Francisco. I got 6 points on my ACT, et cetera, et cetera. So what is the outcome that your service does? And what, it's not hard to get folks who you've helped to say, oh yeah, I'm happy. I'll take my picture. Here's what I would say. They will do that for you. So anyway, I thought it would be helpful.
Social proof, right? Isn't that what it's called?
And,
yeah.
People are happy to help when you ask them.
Exactly. Well, I want to thank you so much for taking time to join us. It's really fascinating area. And I love what you do because, like I said, coming from parents who are school teachers, education is so important in our country and we need it so desperately. But I always like to conclude before I finish up. I have 2 questions. I always like to ask, what is something about you personally that people might not know? It doesn't have to be a deep, dark secret, but either a hobby or something, that is just.
I love to roller skate, and I once went to nationals as a competitive roller skater. So if you ever see me on skates, I will be the fastest thing you've ever seen, and I might be going backwards.
Oh my God. See, there you go. That's exactly it. Now, and my second question is for, given life is a little bit challenged at the moment in terms of travel, but on the other hand, is there something on your bucket list that you're burning thing that you haven't done yet in your life, either personally or professionally, that you know that's something it's on your list?
I have a sense that I am heading to the U.S. Department of Education. So it's not bucket list, it's a career intention. I'm looking at secretary or undersecretary of ed.
Wow. Then I can say I knew you win.
We're going to fix this country, Cheryl.
Well, I would help with that cause any way I can. Because I know, it's a little philosophical, but my mom was a 4th grade school teacher. My dad was an invalid and she was trying to raise us and support us on the salary of a grade school teacher in Louisiana. And she was both my parents were fabulous teachers. Wow. And what you just said was it's become so challenging for the teachers themselves. Yep. It's and this was years ago, she was just burned out, Yep. And so I don't know how we solve that problem in our society, but it's one that has to be dealt with.
It has to come down federal through state. And I got to say, it's traumatizing what's happening in the schools, the misuse of teachers and of counselors, the overburdening of their time, the underpayment, et cetera, et cetera. It is horrific. And that is going to be among the first criteria that I begin to put into place as I move forward with where I feel that my career is leading. I wouldn't be getting this doctorate for nothing. Believe me, it's a lot of hard work.
I know. I was going to say, well, let me know. I'll come to your graduation and we'll throw the cap in the air. Right. I just am
down. We're going to do it.
I'm in awe. No, I really admire you for taking that on. I realize what an undertaking it is, so, but the rewards are great. Well, thanks again so much. And by the way, before we leave, I always like to give my guests an opportunity to share a gift, a link or something, and we will put it in the show notes so people can access it directly in the show notes of the episode. But if you have a website or place where they might get some more information, how do people connect with you?
Sure. So what I would love to do is offer a free e-copy of my book, 4 Keys to College Admissions Success, to everyone who is listening. The way you can get that is to email me directly. That's Pamela, Pamela, at valleypreptutoring.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And we look forward to speaking with you soon.
Okay, sounds great.
Thanks, everyone. And tune in soon for another episode of the Brand Aid Podcast. Pamela Donnelly is a college admissions expert and founder of Valley Prep Tutoring Services and the EdTech online program called Gate College System. Pamela is one of the top college admissions experts in America who is championing the cause for admission to colleges and universities for both privileged and underserved communities around the United States.
Have you protected your big ideas? Is your online business built on a strong legal and business foundation? To learn more about the legal protection you need for your online business and how to use intellectual property to leverage the growth and profitability of your business, check out our new mini-sode series, Built to Last. I'll be sharing what I've learned during my business and legal career and how you can use those lessons to build a lasting legacy for your own business. So join me for my solo flight on the Brand Aid Built to Last minisodes.
That's it for today's episode. Head on over to brandaidpodcast.com and subscribe to the show. When you subscribe, you'll instantly receive Cheryl's free special gift, Consumer Guide to Trademark Registration Services. This consumer guide will help ensure your most valuable business assets are entrusted to professionals. Make certain you're on the path to a business and brand built to last. Join our Brand Aid community on the Podopolo mobile app to win prizes, products, and cool free resources to help you grow your business. And also connect with Cheryl and your friends. Podopolo is free on the Apple and Google App Stores. And when you go to brandaidpodcast.com/win and post a review to iTunes, you'll be entered into a drawing to win a once-in-a-lifetime VIP Brand Aid opportunity to mastermind with Cheryl personally to grow and scale your business, or to select, secure, and sustain a valuable brand name for your business. That's Podopolo on the Apple and Google App Stores. Download it now.